So we have even what I'll call the wrath of African ancestors. African gods are angry also. Who is following her voice?
What they think.
And with the inquest that has been opened about why Biko was killed, who is following Me Biko? This season is important in the African cosmic calendar.
Yes, sir.
And when we perceive it as a new season, it means even the new mindset.
As far as the North Pole is from the South, we are bridging the knowledge gap from centuries past. We inspire you to find your true North. From Timbuktu to Alexandria, from the city of Johannesburg to New York, from the Zulus to the Dogon people, we are disrupting the knowledge economy. We are Sir Max Network.
What you permit persists. Nothing repeatedly happens in your life without your permission. Now, this means, ladies and gentlemen, you hold the key either to allow or to put to an end anything that you do not want in your life. So it means you have to take the decision. Anything that you allow, whether it's a behavior, whether it's an association, whether it's a habit, it will continue to be repeated in your life. So it's simple. You are not a victim. What happens in your life, you have simply allowed it. A mistake happens once, but once it is repeated, then it means you have allowed it to happen. People treat you that way because you have allowed them to. Poor performance is the order of the day in your work ethic because you have allowed it to. Now, I want you to understand this. The universe works with your permission. The universe needs your permission. Today, it's such a great honor and a great privilege today here on CEMEX Network that I'm hosting one of the greatest, a senior researcher at UNISA. He's an elder as well in the Rastafari community. He's a Pan-Africanist in his own nature. Today, Advocate Sipho Mantula is on CEMEX Network. Jambo Mo Africa.
Jambo Mo Africa, Kyalebo Hamadume, and thanks for this invitation. A very timely one during the Heritage Month.
Yeah.
Ethiopian New Year, the Biko month. What can we add, CEMEX?
Yeah.
In Peter Tosh month. I think for us it is an honor to come to these spaces, engage with our viewers, reflect also about this beautiful continent.
Yeah.
Also talk about the journey of being a Rastafarian activist. Also looking at what I'll call the current and the currency of the African continent.
Yeah.
We are a bleeding continent, but we are also a leading continent.
Thank you very much, Mafrika, for coming. We're so honored, to have you here on the show. I think maybe where we should start, Mafrika, is just a quick snapshot of where we are as a continent and where we are heading. There's been so many eras in the continental journey where Vision 2063, the African dream, and so many pockets of hope that gave people hope that the continent is going the right direction. But as you are still going there are some setbacks that are happening. There's been some brilliant leaders who are coming in Africa and then they leave or they change tone. What's your snapshot? What's your view about where we are and where we are heading as a continent?
Africa, where we are, it will always have to be reflected with the Berlin Conference, the Congo Conference. Where we are, you cannot talk about Congo or the conflict that is in the DRC, the conflict in Sudan, without locating it first to the capture, to the looting, and to what I'll call the raid of Africa, how Africa was raided in 1884 and 1885 by legal minds, diplomats, men of the color and of religion, because the colonization of Africa, it is important that we must locate it within the Congo Conference of 1884. And in the 21st century and moving towards the 22nd century, it is important to also look back at what happened in the 1960s with the independence of many African countries. There were more than 8 in 1963. In 2001, in Tekwini, when we reformed the OAU to AU, there were almost 53. By 2010 and 11, we had the 54 member state, which was the South Sudan, still in conflict today. So I've mentioned 3 countries, the DRC, Sudan, North Sudan, and the South Sudan.
Yeah.
Some of us were part of what I will call the separation of umbilical cord of the South from the North, the liberation of the Bantu speaking from the Arabization and Islamization of the North, from the North Sudan. So where Africa is now, it is in search of its leaders, its true leaders. People always look at the Sahel, at the West Africa, with the generals.
Yeah.
Traore, Goyi,
Yes.
Chini. But in the South, where are we sitting? We are sitting with what I called the elderly, aged presidents who forgets that we are the residents also of this continent. They are not only the presidents, they are the servants. I'll normally call government officials that you are number one public servant. You serve the public. So Africa, where it is now in 2025, it's on the scrambling. There's a scramble of its natural resources. The water we drink, the energy we want for power and electricity, the minerals that we want for our gadgets that are in the Congo. So we are in that space of what I call a scramble of Africa's natural resources. And those are the push and the pull drivers of conflicts. And that's why we'll always stabilize conflicts, manage conflicts. We cannot stop what started in the Berlin Conference. Me and you, we can talk today about it, but our children's children will still talk about it. That there was this conference that killed many African governments by colonizing them through culture, through religion, and through language.
Oh, that's a very bleak picture, Mafrika. If one listens to what you're saying, it's doom and so bleak.
Mafrika, remember the narrative that people used to say, Africa rising narrative. And I ask myself, why is Africa was in the ashes, first of all? If Africa have to rise from its ashes. Africa has been, and this beautiful Alkebulan in the language of Selokhalan, he will use the word Alkebulan.
Yeah.
The language of Daniwa Dada Nabudere from Uganda, he will say it, Ethiopia, the Monomotapa, the beginning of Africa. We might send a bleak picture, but it's a bright picture that we need to always introspect the state of Africa, the state of a beautiful continent. No matter the weather about its conflicts, we have to strive to find equal rights and justice. We have to find Africa's descendants, even the African living spora. You remember the Rasta language, we don't call it diaspora. We say it's a living spora.
Oh, yeah.
Still alive.
Yes,
they are living.
Yes.
They are not dead. It's not diaspora.
Yeah.
It's a living spora. So the bleak of the continent, it has to include even the diaspora. Haiti is in crisis. There's a gangster paradise there. Jamaica is in crisis. There's always cyclones in many African countries. Whether it's in the SADC region, whether it's in West Africa, whether it's in East Africa. So we have even what I'll call the wrath of African ancestors. African gods are angry also. Betrayal of the trust, betrayal of commitment. When I talk about Congo again, when Lumumba was assassinated, Congo was only independent for 6 months. Within 2 weeks of Congo's independence, there was already secession of Katanga by the Belgians. That's how the bleak picture of Africa, you see it from there, and Africa never recovered. And that's where I do hope, and I do trust the present generation have a duty, have a mission, have a vision to fight for this beautiful continent, including the living spora. And that's where the role of media also, Semex. I find the media also have painted a dark continent. a bleak continent. But like I said, we are a bright continent. The issue is that what we are going through, it is just the test and trials. The leaders of 1963, Nyerere, Nkrumah, Haile Selassie, Lumumba, Jomo Kenyatta, they've done their part. The leaders of 2025 and moving forward to 2063 have a vision and a mandate to liberate Africa from its close proximity to its former colonizers. We see what we see in West Africa. They have detached from the French hegemony and French assimilation. From language even. It's no longer what you can call the Francophone states. We call it the Alliance of the Sahel now.
Yeah.
Because they're in the Sahel, they're in the Sub-Sahara. You look at the SADC region. When you look at the leadership of the SADC region, like I said to you earlier on my intro, the aged and the senior and the elderly, it's a problem of baton. We have not built the leadership pool of young, bold, militant young leaders, both young men and young women. We have not relied even on our indigenous and endogenous leadership. We are not presenting our narrative. Our narrative is being presented from London and Paris and Washington. So that's where, for us to can protect this image of Mama Africa, this image of Mama Alkebulan, this image of protecting Papa Africa is very important for me, SMX, that all of us, as we are engaging on this Africa liberation discourse, we know that Africa was never independent. Africa was liberated partly. We must not use the word independence because we are still dependent on the West.
Yeah.
We are not independent, SMX. So for me, and for some of us who are in this space, looking at time, we are in the liberation space. We need to liberate the mind. But it takes each and every individual to take that call, to take that claim, to take that space also.
Yeah.
And occupy that space and affirm our Africanness, like the late Eskia Mphahlele, when he talks about Africa affirmations. When are we going to affirm our identity as the continent that has been raped, looted, also being underdeveloped? It reminds me of Walter Rodney, how Europe underdeveloped Africa. But how Africa developed Europe? Because in that space of underdevelopment of Africa, there was a capture and there was what we call not a trade. People I always hear, they say there was a slave trade. There was no trade. It was a capture. It was kidnapping of Africans with their resources, with their minds. And that's where we normally use the word brain drain and brain gain. And that's where I feel that Africa needs to reset and we need to reboot our mindset.
You are mentioning something very important, the baton and of leadership. The generation of leaders, 1963, you mentioned them. Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere and that. But after that, we had the Muammar Gaddafi's of this world, outspoken, strong leaders. You can also probably there include your Nelson Mandela, they come in, Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, you've got your Olusegun Obasanjo, that generation. After that, you have your Mbekis of this world, Fistos Mohai, Kitumile Marasire, Magufuli. These are people who are giving you hope. Kagame comes in. Kabila comes in. But now, Mwafrika, currently, all the fingers are pointing to the West. Traore. But it looks like he's the only one. We are not and you've rightfully saying in the South, we've got elderly people, old presidents. So it means we are still far in terms of that succession, that baton to be handed over.
Mwafrika, remember when you talk of a baton, you're talking of a relay. It's a race. You hand over the baton so that we can finish that race. But you are still on this race. we are still running. But this race doesn't end.
Yeah.
It means we have to go bare feet, like Ababa Bekile from Ethiopia, that in 1964 he ran a marathon bare feet. He emerges victoriously bare feet, and he still do push-ups, waiting for another round.
Yeah.
But when you talk of Traore, there's a concept, they call it Traorealization. So Traorealization is a concept of dealing with the hegemony of the West, of the French. Traorealization is talking about the Pan-African identity. Traorealization, it is talking about that spirit of Sankara being reincarnated, resurrected in the image of Ibrahim Traore. Not only as a leader, but within Burkinabe. So you look at that leadership. Funny enough, me and you, as we are talking, there's elections the next to our region here in Lilongwe, Blantyre. The contestant is 70 years and 85 years old. Cameroon is 92. Paul Biya is going for the 8th term. Yoweri Museveni is going for the 7th term. Then you ask yourself, this baton and mentorship, which I sometimes with my colleagues at the intellectual reservoir of knowledge, we always say, you don't mentor me, you coach me. I'm a player in the field. You just hone my skills, how to tackle, how to score. So that's where in Africa we need coaching skills for our leaders. We don't need only to pray for our leaders. We need to train our leaders.
Yeah.
Prayer is over for praying for our leaders. We need to train our new emerging leaders. Me and you were mentioning all men. We were Samia Sulu in Tanzania now. We had Joyce Banda, who was contesting for the elections in Malawi. We had one lady from Ethiopia, who was even Sahle, who was the president. We have Salif Johnson from Liberia. So in the SADC, we are still struggling also to look at what Credo Muta will say, the mother mind.
Yeah.
The mother mind. I can have the right brain, but my left brain is the mother mind. It's the role of a woman. Motswana abuila are mangwane o tshwara thipa ka fa bogaleng. So you need that element in the leadership of training, refresher courses, rebooting the leadership skills and courses from. We have to unmask them from a Western paradigm. We need an African-centered knowledge of leadership. Elections are not a leadership cycle of recycling the same leaders. Elections, in some language of one famous guy from Uganda, Shaka Sali, always says, elections is selections. People select one another. There's no elections. When you ask about leadership, I'll always talk about servant leadership. Leaders serve the nations, not that other way around. It's not the nation that serves the leaders. So I think that paradigm of leadership, it goes with accountability.
Yeah.
And it goes with the strength of saying, how do we emulate the founding fathers and mothers of Africa, but we don't repeat the same mistakes that they have done? Because their mistakes was that they were still bowing to their former colonizers. Meaning, what changed in the State House was maybe the lock of the door and the frame a bit. The parliaments never changed, still a Westminster parliament. The way our minister sits in their car is still an apartheid model of you sit on the left, the driver is still on the right. You go into parliament, our parliaments are still westernized. And that's where we are saying it's our space of leaders where they engage in debate. Parliaments have become synagogues. And synagogues become demagogues. And also in parliaments, we have people who, I will always use the word of Haile Selassie, we are in the era of bigotry, where we have bigots. In short, we have people who have too many opinions, but they are not factual. They are not pragmatic. So we lack pragmatic leaders, like what we see in the Sahel.
Yeah.
They took over power from the civilian leaders. The only challenge we might have is how do we restore what we'll always call in peace and studies language. We call it military and civilian rule. How do we restore that relation? Because you will say the military belong to the barracks, the civilian belong to the state house. But if the military comes to the state house, he rearrange the boardroom, rearrange the kitchen, and serve the nation. That's where we need that leadership of high discipline and high morale. So I think the issues of morality, of leaders who have ethics.
Yeah.
We are sitting with corruption in many African countries. And that's what makes leadership to become redundant. You know, I've seen at universities, student leaders emulate their seniors. What we have seen in many African parliaments.
Yes.
Some of young people wants to become members of cabinet at an early age, but no experience at all. And I won't mention them, but I can tell you, in many African states where you have young leaders who are in cabinet and they are not historically grounded, they are not African grounded, it gives me an issue that they are just after fame.
Yeah.
And it's where we are suffering from Africa, if I have to be quickly to say. In Africa, actually, we are having a problem that our democracy is actually kleptocracy and democracy. And it qualifies what Fela Kuti said. We are in the era of demonstration of craziness. Demo, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy demo. Demonstration of craziness. We are in kleptocracy. And we are also in democracy. The rule of money. The use of money in leadership. That's the problem. And I think if we don't deal with it in Africa, we are going to have this cycle of recycling old leaders, leaders being bought, leaders forgetting the mission of the Africa we want. Because as you said from your intro, 2063, you look it back to say, where are we? 2013, we launched the 2063 vision under Dlamini Zuma. But it just perished. It just collapsed. And I think last week when the former President Thabo Mbeki said, our spirit of Pan-Africanism, our spirit of Pan-African knowledge is going down, declining. There's a deficit. It means that we have leaders who, I will always say, their minds are in Europe, but their bodies, they're in Africa. That's where we are, struggling and suffering.
Would you say lack of the mother mind? It's one of the key debilitating issues in African leadership. It touched me to the core, to be honest, when I look at it to say the lack of the mother mind throughout the motherland is not there.
It is absent. And for us to bring the presence of it is to honor our great queens of Africa. Queen Nzinga of Angola, Queen Nyayabinga of Uganda, Queen Mantatise, Obatlokwa. We have to honor all our queens and kings in Africa. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be culturally correct. The role of women is that they're not only the first ladies in the presidency. They can see poverty coming, knocking on the door. They can see young people being depressed. A mother knows you from the womb. That's how important it is. And that's where I always say our mothers and grandmothers are important assets. They are not liabilities. But how do we groom women leadership in Africa when there's also sabotaging, obstruction, interruption of women leadership in Africa? Any leader who gets into, you find Samia Sulu comes in, Joyce Banda comes in. There's a patriarchal conspiracy about setting her for failure. Either on corruption or either on... For me, the women that I feel that we have not talked about, the woman from Namibia, Menandi.
Yes.
That woman is already giving the Germans a run because Germans owe Namibia reparations. Actually, it reminds me to say where Africa is. It's a reparation year, by the way, 2025. It's the time of repairing the damage. So it means it gives us opportunity. Repair your relationship with the women leadership. That women have a space. in leadership
Yeah.
in this country. It's not a zebra to say you need male and a female only. Can be a zebra model, but women in Africa, they need to take their stand. And that's how you'll remember Bomme Veronica Zondeni Sobukwe, Bomme Ntsikelelo Biko, who's still alive. Remember the late Winnie Mandela. You remember Bomme Miriam Tlali. All these women in Azania, which some of them I had contact with. One thing I picked something about them, it was always, Sipho, we need to be honored as we are alive. We need to be recognized. Our work as women of this country and this continent must be known by the young generation. We don't need awards. We just need a long life reward to live long. We don't need awards. We need rewards to live long. So for me, your question of mother mind and the leadership of women, it is going back to that essence of that. If you talk of Alpha and Omega, what do you mean? If you talk of a king and a queen, what do you mean? That's a balance.
Yeah.
And in many African countries, the vice presidents are not women, are mostly men. South Africa, we have failed actually for many years to agitate for a women leadership. You had Deputy President Mome Balekambete, you had Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka.
And they were just, by the way, compromise.
You had premiers of women, set them for failure also. And that's where I said, you need that leadership also to train. Even to have women leadership side by side with men is very important. But I always feel that women leadership must go along with youth leadership.
Yeah.
If you train a woman,
you train the nation.
You train the nation.
Yeah. I'm thinking as we speak in Africa to say, where are the voices of women just in South Africa? I'm trying to think, as we're speaking.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm trying to dig deep to say, it looks like in South Africa, just in South Africa, before we even go to other African countries,
True.
Who are the women voices?
Yeah.
We're talking about national dialogue in South Africa now.
Yeah.
Thabo Mbeki will come and give as the father of the nation, he will give his view and many. But we've never heard the mother voice, the voices of the women.
Yeah.
Whenever we talk about the voices of women, it's when these young women are activists, cultural activists, radical, but we don't have the mother voice of the nation. What type of a nation are we? What type of a continent are we?
Yeah.
Where the mother has no voice.
Has no voice and has no space and time to be listened to. You talk about the national dialogue. Let's go back. It's a national convention that was supposed to set the agenda.
Yeah.
I attended it and I was really disappointed with the going back to leadership. The way it was constructed. And now, if you need women leadership, you need to go back. There were many grandmothers there. There were many sisters there who were fuming in that
at the convention,
at the national debate.
Yes,
convention at UNISA. I could hear their voice. They even commanded leaders not to go. Our leaders of today, what they do, they read to us. They no longer talk to the speech. They read an iPad, and a child doesn't have a sanitary pad. They read from an iPad, and a child doesn't have a sanitary pad. They read in tongues, terminologies. Talk of women leadership in the South. I spoke about Mme Biko.
Yes.
She's still alive. Who is following her voice? Mme Nontsikelelo Biko.
What they think.
And with the inquest that has been open about why Biko was killed, who's following Mme Biko? Who followed Mme Veronica Sobukwe before she can transition?
Yes.
Because these were the wives and mothers of great thinkers and what I called philosophers.
Who's following the voice of Mehani?
Mehani.
No one cares.
Who's following the voice of Dudu Phama, Sabelo Phama? We can mention all of them, these women. And you look at the cultural voices. Abu Me Mdende, Nokuzwala Mdende. You look at Abu Me, the lady Me Grace Masuku.
Yes.
You look at Bo Me Gertrude Shope. You look at Abu Me Miriam Tlali, like I've mentioned. Those voices have disappeared. But it's never too late, Sir Max, like I said again, to build a new type of militant leaders in Africa. And the voices in Africa, as you have said, you remind me of one woman, Gertrude Mongela from Tanzania. He was the first Speaker of Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament here in Gauteng. You remind me of one guy, Wangari Maathai, an environmentalist, saying, let's start to plant the trees. And I'm saying why I'm using the analogy of trees is that if the trees, there's a proverb that says, if the trees cannot dance, the wind will make that tree to dance. It means we have to learn and live from the well of our mothers. Wangari Maathai. Who will remember that woman? Who will remember people like I said, Bomme, Lilian Ngoyi, Sophie de Bruyn. All those women, they fought. Bomme Lebagodinokan, who fought against the Dompas and the past law. Bomme Bako Free State, who fought against the Dompas. All these women were so-called village women, rural women, township women, but they were brave. So I think in this era that we are in, one is looking at where is the voice of culture also?
Yes.
Where is the culture of music, the voice?
Yeah.
You ask if Kgoroeadira came with Bantu Biko Street, talk about Marikana, Thandiswa Mazwai, inspired by Me Dorothy Masuku, Me Mira Makeba, Nomfundo Kaluva, inspired by Me Mira Makeba. So I'm asking myself, where are the Makebas of today? Where are the Dorothy Masukos of today? Because remember, the power of the voice of a woman also is that if you are being suppressed in the boardroom, you get into the spaces of public, the stage. That's where Mira Makeba said, I'm not a politician. I sing and I write about what affects the people. Ngugi wa Atiyongo, in one of his books, Writers in Politics, he say, I'm not politically active, but I observe and I write about politics. So we need that observation from our young African leaders to start to hold the current leaders accountable. As we're talking about the national dialogue, which has to go down to community dialogues. But how long are we in these dialogues and monologues? How long? What are the platforms of dialoguing? Yeah. Are we logging in, and we die along the way? We are logging in. It's too many dialogues, too many monologues. There's no true reflection and rebooting the system. And that's where I'm worried. And as we speak about the leadership of people like former President Thabo Mbeki, people like Nelson Mandela, we talk about all the leaders actually who came after 1994. I think their mistake was that they did not reboot the system. I think they struggled a bit. I think it's important for our leaders to also admit their shortcomings. If they did not manage to liberate the land, they could not give the land back to the people. It is a question mark. Yeah. If education was not free, we had to have students 10 years ago talking about the fees must fall. But knowledge does not increase. Something must fall, but knowledge does not increase. If you ask yourself, why our leaders also allowed for the apartheid debt? Why were we supposed to pay the apartheid debt? Why is many African countries are in a foreign debt that they never accrued? And we are in this so-called poor state, but we are a rich continent. So for me, it's still going to the issue of hero worshipping leaders. I think we need to move away from hero worshipping leaders.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are still watching Sir Max Network. Please do us a great favor. Just go and hit that subscribe button. It's the only way that this platform will continue to grow and bring high caliber guests here on this platform. And our guest today, Advocate Sipho Mantula, is a senior researcher at UNISA. He's an elder within the Rastafari community and a great Pan-Africanist. Now, you talk about that, Mo-Africa. It's sad. Let's talk about culture. Because the caliber of the leaders we want come from the culture. Absolutely. The culture is the pot we're cooking.
Yes. Yeah.
From that culture. And we spoke about lack of the mother voice.
Yeah.
But this culture now, and it's now called pop culture.
Yeah.
If we continue this way, where we are a dumping site of the Western culture,
Yeah.
we're not going to produce the quality of the leaders we want, produce the women, the mothers, not just the women, the mothers who will hold the fort across the motherland.
You know, in talk of culture, what was running in my mind was two ways: acculturation, cultural hegemony. Two ways came. And why they came is the issue of the infiltration of our politics of culture. They've become the politics of culture. Many African countries, they think culture is a hobby. Culture is the heart, is the spirit, is the soul of any country. For a country to exist, you'll recall, Semex, I've been appointed recently as a part-time commissioner on culture, religion, and language.
Yes, sir.
But when I look at South African culture, but I say, but South African culture is a melting pot of other African cultures in it. But we are still trying to also massage. We're still trying to please the other races that they saw our culture as a witchcraft. You see the beat of a drum. Walter Rodney said our cultural symbols, it includes the drum. You see many churches now, they start to beat drum in their church.
Yes.
And then Walter Rodney spoke about our culture includes respect for the elders. It talks about inheritance of the land. Where do we practice our culture, Semex? You find exhibitions in many African countries. They all go to Dubai. They all go to Washington. They all go to Paris. That's the beginning of cultural hegemony and cultural capture. The ministers of culture in many African countries, to be honest with you, they are not competent. They are not relevant. I used to joke with Meleta Mbula. I say, you know, Meleta, people who join arts and culture department, before join arts and culture. Are you committed? Are you passionate?
Yeah.
Are you aware of where you are going into? You are in the space of healing the nation. You are in the space of building the nation. But we are not. And we think culture is all about events, festivals.
Yes.
Culture goes with identity. Culture goes with language. Culture, me and my empress, Kgoroeadira, will always say culture has a currency. There's a cultural currency. And it goes with a frequency. And what is that frequency? It's a cultural creative economy. So that's where you find the West has captured us. In this government 31 years later, Semex, I've been trying to push and pull them. We don't have a cultural diplomacy in this country. Cultural relations. How do we relate with the other nations? Interprovincial cultural relations. How do we relate as Botswana, Tenguni, Basotho? How do we relate? We have never addressed that issue. The media space even is worse. You find that in the media space, we are even afraid to promote what we'll call multilingualism. We will prefer to say, you'll speak in English and we'll still translate.
Yeah.
But we moved on translation. We are on transliteration now. We transliterate the knowledge. And that's why I said our culture in most African countries, it has been sold at the highest bidder of selling ourselves. It's what Biko said. We're in the culture of hamburger and Coca-Cola. That's the culture we are in, as we were thinking about the pop culture.
Yeah.
But for us to restore the culture, like I said to you, when I look at the Commission on Culture, Religion and Language, I kept on raising the issue of youth, young people. How do we bring young people to understand cultural diversity, but cultural diversity as cultural unity? How do they see the essence of Botho, humanity? Ka ke le motho, ke na le botho, ke phela le batho. You know, you are a human being. You live with your humanness, with other human beings. So that's where I've always looked at the budgets also. Let's look at the funding and budgets of cultural departments in many governments in Africa. Very low.
Non-existent.
And we don't link even culture with tourism.
Yeah.
We don't link culture even with international relations. We don't link even culture with the office of the president. How the president looks, how he speaks, what he eats. Very important. Then you find that we have a president who is comfortable on speaking English all the way, wearing suits and ties all the way. Because culture also, it talks to the apparel.
Yes.
It is visible.
Yeah.
Culture is language, like I said. Like Yusu Ndo said, the first culture is language. And the first culture of language is music also. So I've spoken about music. It's not festival also culture, per se. You have literature. You have the text. You have the weight.
Yes.
You have the sculptors. You have the painters. You have deep issues when you think of culture, Africa. And culture, like I said, is linked to economy. Culture is linked to our identity, spirituality, our languages. Culture also, it can also be dynamic. It's not static. You can't say, because they used to do this in the past, we have to continue.
Yes.
We learn from the elders. That is why some cover bed of Haile Gerima. He say, you are a bird that looks back, but you are moving forward. We learn from the past so that we may not repeat the same mistakes. It goes back to John Henry Clark. When you say, what is history? Say, history, it is a clock. It tells you where you have been, where you are going.
Yeah.
So in short, I find many ministries of arts and culture in many African countries being led by politicians, not politicians. They've got trickery and mockery. They are tricking the nation. They don't have the heart and the soul of the country. And people think culture also is the national anthem. Fanon warned us. He say, the national anthems and the flags are not culture. They are actually part of colonization. Demystify that. Decolonize that. So I still feel that our culture has been bastardized. It's been captured. And the young people, with the advent of social media, is going to expose them and dispose them.
It has already.
It will expose and even dispose them.
Yeah.
They will get sick along the way because they don't know accountability. So I still feel that culture, it is a weapon for unity in Africa that we can use. And you look what Sahel is doing, again, when you use that template. They've changed even from the courts.
Yes.
The magistrate and the lawyers in Burkina Faso, they don't wear European wigs.
Women,
those Roman and English.
Yes.
The language, they've left the French language. I always laugh. Have you ever looked at your passport? It's got 2 languages. It's got Africa du Sud.
Yes.
Africa du Sud. We are still colonized by the French, even on your movement. As you travel, as you say, freedom of movement and of goods.
And you are right. I've seen that in my passport.
Yeah.
Moafrika, would you please comment this month, on this month, what this month means?
Louis.
On the 24th, on the 24th of this month, September, in South Africa, it's Heritage Month, which is a Braai Day. Basically, we've reduced it to a Braai Day or a barbecue day. But according to those who follow the African calendar, they're saying this is a significant month. It's a new year, according to the African calendar, somewhere around the 20-something, 23. But that's the sick. But take us throughout the African continent as what does this month mean and how should we approach it?
Africa, you might think it is you might say it's the 9th month in the Gregorian calendar, but the Julian calendar says actually we are on the 13th month. Ethiopians, they are in 2018.
It's 7 years behind.
Yes. But doesn't
in fact, we are 7 years ahead. This calendar,
yes.
They are on the right calendar.
On the right calendar. Even the time, even the clock. When I say on the clock, you don't wake up at 6 or say 6 o'clock in the morning. It's 1 o'clock. It's when the sun rises. You start to count from 1.
Exactly.
That's short.
Yeah.
But the calendar on 11 September, 23, 24, and what other African spiritual movements and communities have observed the month of September, which I don't want even to use the word September. In Ethiopian language is Nehase. But Maru always pula. The rainy season, even in Addis Ababa, when you go during this month, Ke pula ya medupi, the drizzling rain. This season is important in the African cosmic calendar.
Yes, sir.
And when we perceive it as a new season, it means even the new mindset. Nature itself tells you. You don't have to go to a laboratory to confirm whether September is it a new year or not. And it's important that we don't miss it with changing that day of a king, Shaka. And we call it Heritage Day because we wanted to please again. We wanted to please again the then Rainbow Nation to say, let's change some of these names. You know,
CVT and yeah.
Soweto Uprising becomes Youth Day. Sharpeville Massacre, it becomes human rights. We dilute and pollute the days. And as you said, there's a misinterpretation of the observation of the month of Luet, of September. Pity, the national celebration is going to the alleged Cape Colony. Those who are trying to separate from the whole continent, to create a Cape Colony. The national celebrations will be in Cape Town. And I wonder, what is the melting pot of the cultures in Cape Town? Beyond only fish and snook and mountains. Many herbs there, they are growing in numbers. And we have many Rastafarians there, by the way. So for me, when I look at the new season, the month of September, the month of Nehase, Emandulo, I always say, Semex, one has to ground with nature. Isanusi Baba Mutu again once remind us, he said the ancestral calling is nature. So I always feel with my family, I always ground with nature when it comes to this period. I don't ground in the malls, I don't ground in the suburbs, I ground in the villages and in the mountains. For a reason of recharging and facing the Babylonian system. Because they have diluted the calendar system, they have diluted our time, our days. They dilute the way we think, even the way we look, you know. So I think the new season in Africa, you look at how many countries, and I think this debate of the calendar, when I was still an investigator, and even now at the Cultural Commission, we had a debate on the public holidays. Holidays and holidays.
Yes.
So holidays, they will say it's in a Christian way. But when we ask, what are the African holidays that we can observe? And I remember vividly, Mkulu Ntsingisa kept on pushing this thing of African calendar. But nobody listened to him. Many people, Bo Mkulu Ralechachi Bukaba, the student activist who go Northwest, he had even written to basic education, say, consider this African calendar. He wrote to government also, look at the calendar. The financial year doesn't start in April. It was supposed to start in September. In the new season, when everything connects.
Aligned to
the alignment of the cosmic.
Yes.
You remember even beginning of the year, people were talking about the alignment of the stars. And we say this is going to be a bad year. People saying this is going to be a worse and a bad year when you talk about alignment of the stars. In the Babylon calendar, when you say in January, have you looked at the alignment of the stars? So I will always feel that, Samex, the question of the calendar is political and political. It's economical and also it's benefiting those who want to change the narrative of understanding African observance or African commemorative days. It is not only what you have said about the new season, but also it tells you that Basotho, Kapatu, in August, they talk of a new season also.
Yes.
And they celebrate it, Lesotho.
Yes.
You know, so you ask yourself, man, are we in a different space? Are we in a different planet? If our people can also align. And how about we can you know, and I think it's our vocab also that one needs to change. And people say, Africans, Palaki your new season. But you're talking to your fellow brother, an African. But no, my New Year is on the 31st of December. And you end up saying, Malcolm X did confirm. A self-hate for Africa. It's a self-hate of self. You know, and that's where I feel, Samex, that as I'm a member of the commission part-time, I will always encourage our viewers to always revive us, always engage us on these debates on the calendar. There are many debates now on the issues of, say, names with the birth register. There are many issues around ispandla, players playing soccer, they are not allowed to wear spandla. You see, that's how I'm trying to explain to you cultural issues that are already affecting the so-called New Democratic South Africa.
I would not conclude this conversation, Mwafrika, without quizzing you on one of the highly discriminated against and marginalized movement and way of life, the Rastafari. Where is it now? And I saw with that convention leading towards the national dialogue, one of the elders, Tautau Haramanuba, he was very annoyed.
Resident of this platform.
Yes, a resident of this platform, yes. Long live the great Tau. You know, he was very... he was annoyed, to be honest. Where is it right now? Are we seeing change and progress and acknowledgement of this Rastafari movement?
So, Max, give thanks for raising this reasoning about where is Rastafari. We always say Rastafari is in transition. We are not transiting one airport to the other. We are in transition. 31 years later, under the liberation movements in many African countries, Rastafari movement as a cultural revolutionary movement has been undermined. Just because of the tree, the herb. Rastafarians, even in this country, even under GNU, what I call the Government of National Unity, which is not grounded by law, actually. It's I'll call this GNU I'll call it a gangster affair that was led by investors during the time of elections last year. Back to your point, where is Rastafari? The Rastafari community have been brutalized on a daily basis, arrested, profiled for the use of the herb. Rastafarians are not in a workspace, most of them. Children at schools. And I've been fighting all these cases. Not alone, with many of my...
Even at schools, children are still
facing the issue of wearing of dreadlocks, wearing of everything. They still have an abuse. It has happened for many years. And I and other brothers in the legal practice and activists, we have been fighting. We are not giving up. Peter Tosh taught us, don't give up. We keep on fighting. We are fighting for equal rights and justice. The Rastafarian movement has been contesting for many years in this country for basic things: access to land, access to economy through the green herb, which is the green economy. The case of cannabis, when it came of Gareth Prince in 2001, I was involved until today. But who's benefiting now? Joseph Hill used to say, too many feeds, too many benefits. There are too many feeds now around the cannabis industry in this country. The presidency has a cannabis desk. He has appointed another person to run it. And who were the people who were arrested and harassed during apartheid? Were the Rastafarians. The Rastafarians actually, and the power of reggae music, liberated most of the African countries through the power of music. But they are the ones who are being undermined, harassed. And that's why I said, as a human rights defender and a human rights activist, I will never give up to fight for the rights of Rastafarians. The Rastafarians are not respected. From the sisters, the mothers, the children, the elders. The reggae artists are not respected in this country. We have to fight in this country to have the awards of the Rastafarians, both in the Satma and the Sama. We are still fighting even today. That we don't even get funding for reggae cultural events and festivals. We still have broadcasting that is still skewed and narrative. The narrative that you find on media, whether radio or TV or print, they always write negative about Rastafarian communities all over CMX. But slowly, we are changing the narrative. As you said, Tautau was angry at the National Convention. That anger was based on our representation. We only got 4 seats. We wanted 9 seats to be represented so that we have a provincial voices.
Yes.
Because a national convention, it means Everybody, even the one who's in a village in the township must attend. But they gave us only 4 seats. And they wanted to tell us, they were talking from the top. They were not listening from the ground. They were not grounding with us, like Walter Rodney said, grounding with my brethren and sisters. They never grounded with us. So the state of the Rastafari movement in South Africa, in Africa, it's concerning. It's also the leaders. Very few leaders who have accepted the Rastafarian community. Ethiopia, Emperor Haile Selassie acknowledged them in the late 60s. The president of Ghana, President Mahama, President Chakwera last year, I think the outgoing president of Malawi, or I don't know, is outgoing or incoming. Chakwera welcomed Benin Spear when he came. This country, they could not welcome Benin Spear. The person who chanted many songs about our liberation, they never. And what I will say to you, Samex, it's not a bleak state of Rastafari movement. I think, like I said, we never give up the fight. We'll always stand up and fight for our rights. And I urge all Rastafarians who are always facing challenges in the system, they must never give up. Can contact us, because we have set up a Rastafari Human Rights Institute with other legal minds, so that we are able to start to advocate and have advocacy on the Rastafari rights.
What's the state of youth within the Rastafari community? Because it's the only way we can keep the movement going.
Most of the youth are also vibrant, vocal.
I mean, sorry, Africa. I mean, when I was in university in my days,
there was no Rasta movement.
No, but there were 1 or 2 guys who were running conscious Rasta consciousness movement. So where is it right now?
No, there are Semex. We have many young people in different universities. I know Western Cape University. They used to observe the Black History Month. Northwest University, Abu Raspablo there.
Raspablo,
Yeah, they used to push. But the youth within Rastafari community now is agitating towards economic liberation. And it's not only about the issue of cannabis only. I think it's broadly on issues of arts and craft, issues of agriculture, issues of health. The youth of Rastafari also, they are growing. But it's a matter of guidance also, that we need to guide them.
True.
The same like our elders. We need to guide our elders that we cannot, in Africa or in South Africa, Jamaicanize Rastafari. Because one of the issues is to also this Jamaicanization of Rastafari when Emperor Haile Selassie was from Africa. So most of the youth, the issue of discipline. Discipline, respect.
Okay. Mafrika, please promise to come back again. There are a lot of issues that we must talk about. We must talk about the reggae music, not only in South Africa, but throughout the motherland. We must talk about the conflicts in the motherland that are holding the motherland back, and so many other culture and religion. Just generally religion. Please, I know you are very busy. Please spare some time to come to our platform.
Absolutely, Mafrika, and I'm very humble and grateful for this space. And I hope that our viewers will be liberated by engaging with your platform. And as you said, subscribe so that you can also get raw information. It's no longer information, it's outformation now. And indeed, when you talk about reggae, I will definitely want to talk about my days on Reggae Vibes TV. I want to talk about my early days on radio and reggae, my contribution. And I even want to touch about Benin Spear in the future.
Please.
And where we are.
In fact, we must do an episode just on music, but reggae also in the diaspora, I know the role. The role.
We can look at the role and the impact of reggae then, now, and in the future.
Please, Mafrika.
Definitely, Mafrika.
We have a huge audience in the diaspora that are following this. The living spora. I will practice. The living spora that are following the platform. Ladies and gentlemen, Advocate Sipho Mantula here on CEMEX Network. If you've enjoyed the conversation, please make sure that you subscribe to this channel so that we become one of the best platforms, and it's the only way we can continue to bring you high-level conversation and epic conversations. I am CEMEX. Amaku.